Okay, so it's podcast number 16, and I'm still in Bozeman, surrounded with beautiful mountains. It's snow outside. We have been in the hot springs together. And today we're going to do a podcast where I have my dear friends together with me, and I'm going to introduce them. I'm Morten Nygård. My natural energy is 3, and I'm going to hand it over to Susan Fisher. You can say something about yourself.
I'm Susan Fisher, and I have natural energy 6. And we've been working together now for 5 years.
For 5 years.
5 years plus the other 17 years that we've known each other, that we've all been committed to working on this.
Wow. So that's probably something you can talk about when we have introduced everybody who is on this podcast.
Yes, because we've all been working together for a long time.
Because this podcast has a topic. What do you want to talk about? Okay, Paolo.
Yes, this is Paolo. Paolo Scoglio from Beverly, Massachusetts. And I've known Morten and Susan since 2003. Thereabouts. And I'm a natural energy 7. And I would like to talk about our collaboration.
Collaboration. Wow, this is going to be an exciting podcast. And then we have Martin.
Hi there. I'm Martin Fisher. My natural energy is number 5. And although I've known Susan since 1992, so I'm going to get the longevity number, we've actually only been working together on this since about 2008, Susan and I. And I met Paolo and Morten sometime around 2008 as well, as it turns out. We didn't start working together, though, until close to 2012.
And you would like to talk about?
I haven't yet decided. I'm going to see where the flow goes.
And did you say your natural energy?
Yes, I did. I said I have natural energy 5.
Yeah, there you go. So we're sitting around the table. Susan is knitting a little bit. And knitting, she's an amazing knitter. She's going to knit a most amazing, what do you call it, sweater? Sweater for me. We were looking after yarn yesterday, and she decided that I'm going to wear gold. So I'm going to have a gold yellow kind of.
Mustardy yellow.
Yeah.
Goldy, mustardy, super white, lightweight wool, really warm. Because Martin and Paolo already have one. And Morten wanted to have one just like theirs.
A little bit jealous. Color. I became a little bit jealous when I saw they wear them. So what I want to do, when I walk into the Doom in Norway, when I do the trip in the winter, I would like to wear that and honor Susan for knitting it to me. Okay. So then we're going to talk about what we're going to talk about. And I think, Susan, you can start. You had something very specific you want to talk about.
Well, I'm just so happy and excited to move this work that we have been doing, all of us equally committed in our different ways over the last 17, 18 years. It's been a long time. We've been working on this. All of us were identified in 2002, 2003 timeframe, except Martin, it was 2007. And so we've all known for quite a long time about how knowing your natural energy impacts your personal development and how it affects you in relationship. And we have each had a very powerful experience with this understanding. And it has really shaped how our lives have been the last 17 years. And we have all been working very hard. And we reached a point of understanding this year of what we know. We have a really solid view of what we know. And so we've been having this beautiful conversation this week about what would it be like for us to bring all of the energies together to create what's coming next. And we have been focusing on that this week together. And I actually feel like we, for the first time ever, have really done that. We have created with using the energies of all 9 energies. And there's more to come. It was just a beginning. But I feel like the groundwork was laid, and I'm kind of excited about it.
How did you, I'm interrupting a little bit in your explanations. So I'm sure that they understand what you mean. using the different natural energies in the process. How did you do that? How did we do that? I think we need an explanation.
So we had people of each of the natural energies, and or we ourselves with a group of people brought the energy through the activation of our bodies into the space. And then we talked about how that energy was informing the entity of 9 energies.
Oh.
And as we progressed 1 through 9, we that started to take shape because there's a progression in the energies as well. And we can talk about that if you want. Martin's actually pretty good at talking about the progression in the energies.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to say anything?
Yeah, I'll just say that
this is Paolo talking.
Each of the energies has a particular perspective of reality and a gift in the way they see reality that they bring to others. And when we have the whole, all 9 types of people, it generates something very, very different than you normally have, because you include all realities, all aspects. And I was here last month, and we had all people together, and I can still feel that, what we got from that. And here we are this month doing it again with Morten. And Morten you bring just an amazing kind of catalytic power.
Oh, thank you.
To the process.
Morten is raising up his hand. He wants to say something, and I'm handing it over to Morten.
Thank you. One of the interesting aspects of this work is that the 4 of us are among the first group of people that actually have the ability to have all 9 active in their body, 1 at a time, or sometimes more than 1 at a time. And that's a necessary step. Becoming whole and having those 9 running together has enabled us to have the patience and respect and honoring of everybody else in the process. So instead of always interrupting, as I perhaps used to do, I can find the time to be patient and wait for the wisdom that comes from the other energies. So the events that we've had here have been both necessary and exciting, and have benefited from the awareness of all 9 in our own bodies before we actually add all 9 into the process. So it's a double step. I think if each of us just had 1 energy in our bodies, even if we were listening to the other 9, we wouldn't be able to accept the wisdom as easily because of the personalities and ego and all the other stuff that tends to interrupt any sort of conversation. So it's a double-edged step. And I think the fact that we've been able to use both sets of steps has been part of the reason for the success of this particular event, which I think has been really exciting.
And success, that means that we know what we're going to do.
Success, as it means we know what we've done, and we have some ideas about what we could do, and the path that we're going to follow for now. I don't know that we have a set of concrete manifestations, but I think we know what it is we need to do, and we will do those things based on our own particular strengths.
So, but I know, Susan, you have a very... You started to see it really clearly this morning, what this is about. And you're probably going to write a book about it also. So, and what is that?
Our physio-spiritual nature is informed by our bodies, through our bodies. There are 9 centers in our body. Each uses a particular set of muscles, bones, and tendons. You create a very specific activation in your body, which gives you access to a very specific frequency or set of information. There's a basic assumption that we're all getting the same information if we would just pay a little more attention out in the world. So if you just paid a little more attention to me, you would understand me better. Well, it turns out that's actually not true because of the impact that our natural energy has on how we perceive what we care about and the sense we make of the information coming into us.
I'm very sure that since I know some of my people who's listening to this, that they actually want to go back and hear, how did you guys do this process by using your knowledge in a process to create something and understand what you have done? So you have, it's Paolo. Paolo wants to say something.
I felt questions being risen and listening to what Susan said around one word, the physio-spiritual nature, I think might make people wonder what that is. And so there's a physical element. We have bodies, and our bodies have an animating energy that's called life or life force, and that's the spiritual and physio-spiritual nature, our nature, how we are. So if our bodies are tuned in to how that life force energy is in us uniquely, and we connect with that, we're much more present. And if we learn how to connect with other people of other energies, you can be more present. I am a easily distracted person, and yet I have been able to sit and listen to others talk for 30 minutes just because when Susan talks, I tune into my chest, and it's like I don't get distracted. When Morten talks, I lift my sternum, and when Morten talks, I lift up and connect with the top of my head, and I don't get distracted. So, and I then can understand better what they're saying rather than from my own place.
So this is the way we did it when we tried to when we worked with the energies to figure out how we could fill the holes so we can be more whole, so we could actually understand what we need to do based on the information from all 9 to create the process that we need or want to do.
And for those of our listeners that are thinking, well, no one's ever heard of this before, how is it that we've suddenly discovered this? This is not new information. And one of the things that you'll be hearing from us over the forthcoming years are the mathematical relationships between the numbers, the history of the numbers, how this work relates to other things like the Chinese 5 elements and all the other ways of being and ways of analysis of our being that are out there. So I just want to reassure everyone that this is not some California woo-woo. This is actually a very well-defined, physical, scientifically respected methodology that we're talking about here that is just not as well known as it will become over the next few years. So stay tuned for that.
So we have done a process. We have been working to know more about what we're going to do. It's going to be a lot of exciting stuff coming out. And since I'm running this podcast right now, I can feel that Susan wants to say something.
Well, the question you asked me before, I actually have an answer for now.
And this is the beauty about the podcast. You can say whatever you want.
So that I loved how that was actually some groundwork we needed to lay. So we sat down together and we brought in these other energies and we went through the process of using each energy to look at how it informs the entity that we are creating together, because that entity is bigger than any one of us. And it needs to contain all those energies. And once the process started to form as a 6, my job in that process is synthesizing what's happening. And so I was finally able to say, oh, okay, I get it. We're building the base. We've worked so hard over the last 6 years, 7 years. We all know a lot. Now it's a question of getting that information down and out. Down on paper, into video, on podcasts, and out into the atmosphere so that it can become known.
Yeah. And I have a question that, what do you mean? I understand what you mean, but I want everybody to understand it. That's why I announced this. What do you mean with entity? What is an entity? You as an entity, Susan Fisher as an entity, what is that?
Well, actually, let Morten describe what it is.
Let Morten, we are turning. Yeah, that's great. Super.
Yes. So there are, as we've discussed or implied, nine different physically kinds of people. And there are muscles and bones that each of us use to generate and receive information. There are 3 energies in the head, 3 in the chest and the torso, and 3 in the lower body in the trunk. So each of us has a different way of describing things. The words that I use can be easily understood by someone of my natural energy, by others may or may not be. So to me, I visualize myself, my entity, as my physical body, which is 5'11", brown hair, blue eyes, grey hair, blue eyes. And
looking good.
But there is also, there's more to me. There is an energetic signature. There is an element of energy that surrounds my body that can be read by other people. I see it as a sort of an egg. So I live in this egg where most of the egg is invisible. And I can call that my entity. It is my thoughts, which I don't actually believe completely reside in my brain. It resides in my entity. It is my processing, which I believe is done by my entity. As an odd-numbered natural energy, my awareness and my wisdom does not come from my body. It comes from within the entity. An even-numbered entity, such as Susan, gets a lot of her information from her body and processes it more in her body than I do. So to me, an entity is a construct of all the parts, all the processing, all the knowledge, all the history, all the nurturing. And so there are 7 billion people. We're all different, but there are only 9 different kinds of sets of senses of awareness. That is our nature. There's a lot of nurture that sits on top of our nature. And that is why we're all different. But the reason that we all experience the world very, very similarly is because our nature comes in through the same information.
That's why you call it physical spiritual?
Yes, we've started to call it physio-spiritual because it is a construct that I think is relatively easily understood, but not widely acknowledged.
We're like a small school class here because now everybody's holding up their hands and want to say something and handing it over to Paolo.
So another aspect of entity is when there is a committed relationship that continues. The relationship itself becomes an entity.
Relationship to what?
The relationship between the 4 of us around the idea of the 9 energies and the intention of helping others to learn is an aspect of the entity that we have been looking at this week, have been wondering about how we nurture and what's needed by this entity from us, what we must do.
Do you say that we are a team?
We are a team.
And that team creates, it's often called in relationship coaching, it's called a third entity. There's you, me, and the entity of our relationship that forms a triangle. And the relationship, or the entity of the relationship, in this case, the entity that we've created coming together, the 4 of us, but also adding in the 9 energies, each of the perspective of the 9 energies, that entity is actually bigger than us. It's bigger than the 4 of us. And now it has a wholeness because we brought in the relationship aspects of 1, 2, 3, and 4. How do we be together with source, each other, our souls, and ourself in connection? And then how do we transform? How do we create using relationship, understanding what do we know, what do we don't know, what do we need to go out and find out? That comes from 5, the scouting, the clarity of understanding, the direction that comes from 6, the possibilities that come from 7, and then the ability to land it, make it safe and make it real from 8, and then the 9 that says, okay, we actually thought about everything. How does this fit in the panorama of our human experience? So each of those energies informs the process and informs the entity that we're creating.
He's faster than me, Paolo. You're before me. Come on.
And we received the information about the 9 from another entity that was as large as 70 people together learning about this and discovering and experimenting. And we are 4 seeds from that process that it manifested in a way and brought it forward to a certain level, and now we're here to bring it forward to another level. And we're recommitting in a way because we disconnected from that previous entity after about 9 or 10 years, which is a long time to be in connection.
Oh, that explains the years that we have been together working with this.
Yes.
Nice. So, Susan, you want to say something again?
No.
Okay, good. Martin, I'm going to change the topic completely and ask you something. And it might be that you guys who's listening to know it needs to wait a little bit. What more do we need to talk about? What do people need to know about us?
Why us would be the answer. What is it that we have that nobody else in recent history has been able to talk about? Why are we bringing this out now, and why this hasn't happened in the past? I don't know that there is a truthful, honest, defendable answer as to why it hasn't happened in the past. There's many potential reasons. That really doesn't matter. The question is, what can we do with it? And the reason why us is because we are the people that have done the work, carrying on from the seeds that Paolo implied, working with 7,000 or 8,000 people in many festivals and workshops around the world in the last few years. We have the awareness and the learning now to be able to help other people do this and learn this without having to travel somewhere, without actually having to be pushed on, the ability to have some pretty good ideas who we are and who we are with in the world just by the information that we're going to be producing over the next year or so. Yes, there are many aspects to it. Yes, there's a learning. This is a physical process. You don't learn how to play tennis by reading a book. You learn the rules, but you don't know the actions. You need to do it with your body. This is body-based. We're going to be teaching people how to use their bodies. We're going to be showing people how to use their bodies. Why us? Because we have that capability.
Ooh, that's cool.
And why not? It's really, with anything people are inspired to do, it's really, why not? We are inspired to do this, so we do it.
Is there anything else that you want, Paolo, to talk about today on this podcast?
Well, just in our process this week, it feels like we've all brought a particular perspective and approach and mutual respect and admiration. And I just have a lot of gratitude for your energy, Morten.
Okay.
And your capacity to inspire me towards my purpose.
And for Morten's fun. One thing for Morten is he brings a great sense of fun.
A lot of fun.
It's been a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. 1 or 2 tears, but not many. Mainly it's been just a huge fun
It has been. Yeah, very good.
It's just this. The three of them just started all looking at me at once. I'm like, okay. So, it's actually been a magical week because we've done something new. You know, we each had our points of struggle. We each had our resistances.
Yeah.
And together we worked and helped each other move through those points of resistance to a new place of openness and understanding. And so people stopped digging in their heels, saying it needs to be my way, agitating ourselves over things that are in the process.
The others too. The rest of our community contributed.
Yes, our whole community, not just the 4 of us, but the community that came in to help us.
Yes.
We couldn't have done this without them because they brought all the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 energy in to get this all started.
I have something I want to put into this. It has been an amazing week, and I had a week together with Paolo in Boston before. We did a couple of events. It was beautiful to see how you are working there in Boston, and I'm here with this worker. And one of the things that I want to bring in, and I think it's really important, and I think it's part of what I do with people, is to really, really ask them questions until they become really, really clear about what they're going to put into this life that they're living on this earth. And I have been keep asking all of them, what are you going to say that you need to do before you die? So that process have created something very interesting. So Susan, she's going to, and I'm going to hand it over. What are you going to do the next year or two?
I'm going to write down everything I've learned in the last 7 years about how to look for and see the markers, the physical markers and the energetic signature and the presence of the natural energies in our human bodies in the world today.
Wow.
And I'm going to do my best to articulate that in clear and simple ways that will help people to begin to see it out in the world.
Mm.
And I'm going to begin to speak about this at large-scale venues around the United States and in the rest of the world as well. So applying to be keynote speaker, and so with the book, and really focusing on the message that this is the path to wholeness, a path to wholeness that we can use to become whole human beings that actually understand what's going on with others and how different that is.
So those who are listening to us, they can look forward to read the book about the knowledge and to become whole.
Yes, they can, but I've already got a book they can get started with. It's called 9 Energies Practices for Presence, and it's available on Amazon.com. My author name is Susan Bennett Fisher, Bennett, and no C in the Fisher. They can get it today, and that gives the basic introduction. The next book will be much, much more.
Wow. And then Paolo.
Yes.
What do you think my question is?
Am I going to swim in cold water like you
that's
on a daily basis?
That's also one of the questions. So are you going to? Now the question is, what are you going to do the next 1 or 2 years?
Well, my intention is to write about my vision for this entity, this knowledge, this understanding, and speak to some of the possibilities for people in relationship, people in groups, people in communities. That's my ideas at this moment.
Does it mean that you will come with a book?
It does, yes.
So great. What kind of book will you create?
It will probably be on paper. And possibly available on Kindle. What kind of a book? I hope it has some pictures and words. I'm not sure what else you're asking.
Probably in English.
It will be non-fiction. In the non-fiction category, maybe psychology category. I'm not certain.
But it's going to be a book.
It's going to be.
And some research, right?
And some research, yes. I can't help but think about research. Yes.
Yeah, I think, could you please say something more about research?
Well, people know how to identify, and to validate that capacity or that idea, we would helpful. The next piece of research we want to do is with twins, and do a blind identification process so that, for example, Morten and Susan would identify the same sets of twins, but separately, and not knowing what the results were. And there'll be more elements in the design.
Okay, this is so exciting. We are going to ask Martin and myself, but you have to stay tuned. We will be soon back. There will be a short break of about 5 or 6 seconds because the podcast needs to be recorded on the next tape. So stay tuned. And we are back again, and in the break, the short break of only 10 seconds, I think Paolo has so much on his I will say third eye.
Just one more thing about the research. It would be to validate inter-rater reliability. That's the concept that we would be hoping to validate statistically when we do this research.
That's great.
And what would that demonstrate? That
that's a good question.
This knowledge can be reliable, and unlike something like the Enneagram, where the identification can be a little bit, can shift from time to time, or from identifier to identifier, we would establish that there's a standard of understanding that is held by people who learn this, and that I could come up with the same results that Morten would come up with, that Susan would come up with, that Martin would come up with, that Jake would come up with. Jack. Pardon. Sorry, Jack.
And Jake.
And Jake.
I'm sure
And others. Okay, I'm handing over the microphone to Martin. What are you going to do the next 1 to 2 years?
Explain, give context. Part of my being is knowing that I can learn and keep learning and need to keep learning. If I'm not learning, I don't really see, other than relationship with my wife, what's the point? So to me, learning more about how this interacts and how it relates to the other things that are known in the world is really important. I want to add to what Paolo said, because one of the things that we're excited about working with twins and triplets is that in any family, the numbers don't repeat. There are some writings from the early 1900s. This information has been known since the early 1800s, 1850s, that families have a difference in them, and that everyone in the family is different as long as you have less than 9 people in the family, obviously. As you get more, there are some patterns that we see emerge. So twins don't have the same energy. To some extent, that's how you can tell them apart. And
Identical twins
don't have the same energy, yes. Even mirror twins.
Right.
So there's a fascinating part of that research. There's some part of research one day in the future is, do we know why the numbers don't repeat? But we just know they don't. And we have no real ideas why, so we're not even going to try to tell you. But there has to be some relationship to what is currently known, whether it's DISC, the Enneagram, Myers-Briggs, or any of these modeling systems that help us understand each other and how that we're each different, has to be based on this physical reality. And what we're excited about is that not only can we give you an idea what your experience is like, by helping your body activate the other energies, we can give you an experience of what somebody else's reality is like, and which really makes it totally clear. And our listeners, they may be nodding their heads, they may be shaking their heads, but until you've had the physical experience, a lot of what we're talking about is as much taken on faith as anything else. So we've spent our lives in the last 7 years giving people the physical experience. And part of what I will be doing is helping connect the vast and amazing knowledge about people's lives that comes from the ancients, China, India, the rest of these places. How does that relate to the physical reality we know now? It's going to be a fun path, and it's going to have its fun, it's going to have its challenges. But my job in the next year or two is helping people understand how this fits in with everything else that's already known.
Do we hear a book, or do we?
Oh, absolutely, at least one book.
Yeah, at least one book. Oh, that's amazing. So we are at the end of this podcast, and now I'm going to do something that I have never done before. Each one of you is going to ask me one question.
What are you going to do when you die, before you die?
Before I die, I have created a world community together with you guys and Birgit, my wife, my partner, my working partner, and together with you guys and a bigger and broader community. I'm going to bring this out in the world through podcast and to TV and books, and I'm going to concentrate my energy also on everybody who is on this team together with us, because it's going to be more than us four, and help everybody to reach their goal. And then it's Susan. What do you want to ask me about?
What's it take to stay clean enough to be introducing new information about humanity?
What does it take?
Yeah, what does it
That's
take?
a good question. I'm pretty sure it takes something that has happened with me this week. Is that the markers that you learn in the beginning, because that's what I mean with being clean. Of course, you have to do your own development. You have to constantly be willing to look at yourself and your beliefs, how you believe. And what I have learned this week, to be cleaner, I don't know if I am going to be completely clean, but to be cleaner is that you have to have somebody who knows something more than yourself around you. You have to surround yourself with people who knows more than yourself. And you have to I get so engaged. I'm putting my hands in the table. So you have to be so willing to listen to something that you haven't seen before. So I have a very good example of it. I was 100% sure in my belief structure that I was right about one person that I saw. And I couldn't let go of that. So it became unclean. But when I learned it from you and you guys around me, but okay, Morten, but you have to look at this physical structure. You have to look at what this person brings about of energy. It's a cleansing process that's happened with me so I can get cleaner. It's crucial to do that.
So my follow-up question would be, what is the principle, or what's the principle? How will you maintain a balance, or how do you maintain a balance in your life so that you can move forward with your own personal purpose?
I can't do that if I don't include everybody in my life in this journey, which means that me and Birgit needs to do this together. I need to help the community that I have established in Norway, which is about 300 people, and 20 of them is very active. And yes, and Martin wants to say something. And that's it.
But what do you do for yourself? What do you have to do, and what have you done for yourself so that you can have this?
I have had a big shift these 2 last weeks where I have been saying I experienced life. So when I experience life, the joy of life, which I am about, I mean, we have been swimming in the snow, we have been cooking together, we have been walking together, we have been discovering together with joy. Mm-hmm. So it has to be joy, and it has to be nice to do this. Mm-hmm. And when you ask me about what I'm doing, I have a very strict discipline, not strict discipline, but I have a discipline to take care of my body. I have a discipline to take care of my mind. I have a discipline to take care of what I eat. And I need to develop a better discipline. This is honestly what I need to do, a better discipline to take care of the relationships around me. And I will do it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, if I may hijack the ending of this.
Yes.
I would like to ask each of us, why 9 energies? Why are we devoting our lives to this hard work of getting something new into humanity?
Paolo wants to start.
So since I've been a professional psychotherapist and coach, every 4 years, I would feel like I'm getting bored. And so I would learn some other discipline or something. And coaching was one of those things. You know, I got to a place where I got to create another modality. I have to learn something. And then after I learned coaching, I learned about the 9 energies. But the 9 energies, the learning just keeps coming through. It's like there's always something new. So I've been with it for 18 years almost. Not quite, but close to 18 years. And that 4-year cycle that was there for 20 years, like every 4 years I had to learn something new. And it's like, this is revitalizing over and over again with something new, some further personal development.
Susan?
When I found out my natural energy, it was so profound for me. I also knew in that moment that I had found my calling. So for me, it's a calling. The impact on my life, at the time, my life was about as crappy as one can make one's life. Everything had blown up. I was a single mom with 3 kids. I had no idea what to do with these kids. There was terrible things happening in my family that I didn't know about. I knew there was some purpose I had as a human being. And when I found this, I found that purpose. And the process over the last 17 years of learning, exploring, transforming has been the most powerful experience I could ever imagine. And it continues, as Paolo said, it continues to blow me away. The transformations become at each level more and more exciting. And this possibility for us to be cosmic human beings with compassion, love, appreciation, and understanding for each other, instead of judging and differentiating and making each other wrong for who we are, and not understanding and fighting and having all of these. To me, it lets everything that is be true. And it allows me to be tolerant and accepting of so much more. And in that, I can start to look at what do I believe and what's the impact of what I believe on me and the people around me. And that continual look at who am I and what do I believe has been incredibly valuable, because I didn't really understand what it meant to love myself until one day through this process, I began to be able to love myself. And through that ability to love who I am, to appreciate this amazing, powerful human being that I am, and not to be embarrassed of it or made wrong by it or feel like I had to modify my behavior, I can own who I am. And at the same time, I can integrate the wisdom of the other 8 ways of being, which makes me a more powerful person, because now I can connect to and communicate with all people. Because this crosses nationality, it crosses race. It is one of the most fundamental pieces of our information about our human condition that we just don't know about. And that, to me, is practically criminal. And I truly, truly believe everybody has the right to know this about themselves. And that's my commitment, is that you have the right to know this about yourself, because it's freeing. It frees you.
Wow.
And we are so controlled by the world. This opens doors for a different way of being.
I'm going to answer before I'm handing the question from Martin to himself. I experience life when I'm together with a person and I don't see them as an object, but I experience them as a human being with a life force energy in them. And when I'm able to bring that into them or out of them, or they can feel it and understand it, that's the whole reason why I'm doing this.
Thanks, guys. My answer is I'm a computer guy, computer programmer. I went to Silicon Valley in 1981 and I chose computers because if I didn't like what was going on, I could turn them off. And now that I have spent my time doing this, I realize what I miss when I'm not in connection with other people, and my ability to be and enjoy being with other people, making eye contact when it's fun and not making eye contact if it's not necessary. But also I've learned not to disbelieve the power and the magic that's in all of us. I can do things that you guys, listeners, may or may not believe is even possible. Don't disbelieve your magic, because your magic is as real as mine.
And by that, when I have goosebumps on my arms, we are going to end this podcast. And we all say goodbye to the listeners. Stay tuned.
Until we meet again.
Until we meet again. Bye.
Bye.